Hello and welcome. My name is Zaffar Iqbal, and you are watching the Mojo Story. India China relations have hit a rock bottom. India Canada relations have hit a rock bottom. I beg your pardon. Canada has been saying that India has been involved in the killing of Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. India has, of course, said that not a shred of evidence has been shared by Canada. Now, this happened last year when Justin Trudeau stood up in Canadian Parliament and said that agents of the government of India were responsible for the killing of Nijjar. And he has, in fact, reiterated that a few days ago. But Indian side, the Indian High Commissioner, who's also been labeled as a person of interest in the investigation of the Niger case, has said that Khalistani separatists are, in fact, assets of the Canadian system. To discuss this, we're joined by Prabhu Dayal, who joins us now. Welcome to the show, sir. He's a former diplomat. Prabhu Dayal ji, the relations are going from bad to worse. Is there any hope of a recovery, given that Canada has been fixated on this issue of Hardeep Nijjar, although India has been saying that no evidence has been shared yet? And ironically, Canada's Prime Minister, in a public hearing recently, said that he had made those statements based on intelligence inputs and not on any evidence. Where do we go from here?
Well, let me mention that I strongly endorse what Mr. Sanjay Verma, the Indian High Commissioner in Canada, who has been recalled by our government because of the tensions, what he has said about Khalistan extremists being the deep assets of Canada. And I also endorse what he said that Justin Trudeau has destroyed India's ties with Canada. Now, I may also mention that, as you rightly said, Canada has not given any evidence or proof, and our High Commissioner has underlined this fact. Canada has only been making allegations. We have been asking them for proof, and no proof has been forthcoming from their side. Now, Canada has over time become a hotbed for anti India activities by these extremist Sikhs. Many extremist Sikhs, including gangsters and terrorists from Punjab, have fled to Canada, where they have been given citizenship by the Canadian government. And these extremist Sikhs are openly calling for the breakup of India and the creation of Khalistan. They have attacked the Indian High Commission in Ottawa, and they have put up posters calling
Yeah.
for the assassination of Indian diplomats, including the Indian High Commissioner.
Yeah.
Uh, Despite several requests by India, the Canadian government has completely failed to take action against these anti India elements operating within its borders. And it has not extradited the terrorists who are wanted by us. So, from their safe haven in Canada, these terrorists have been involved in masterminding attacks against India.
In fact, a few days ago, just a couple of days ago, they were taking out those effigies, burning and beating up the Indian signs, like Indian prime ministers, their effigies taking out and doing all sort of provocative things. The point that one doesn't understand is that from a people to people contact or people to people relation, they've been fine and they've been there for years altogether, for decades altogether. What is the problem of the government when people don't have a problem? People of the two countries, it is not something, the relationship dates back to decades and people get along with each other very well. What is the problem of the government?
Mr. Zafar, you rightly recalled that on 4th of June last year, these radical Sikhs held a parade in Brampton glorifying the assassination of Indira Gandhi. And the Brampton demonstration had a tableau of Indira Gandhi with blood on her clothes and a poster that read, "Revenge for attack on Sri Darbar Sahib." I may also recall that this year, on 28th April, these pro Khalistan slogans were shouted at an event in Toronto. And this event was attended by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. So the slogan chanting uh, showcased the atmosphere of anti India separatism, extremism, and violence within Canada's political space. So, how has all this arisen? I'm afraid this crisis has erupted because Justin Trudeau is indulging in vote bank politics, and he is allowing a wide range of anti India activities to be carried out by the Khalistan supporters because they are part of his vote bank. Let me mention that the Canadian Parliament has 338 seats. Justin Trudeau's party, the Liberal Party, got only around 160 seats, but it needed 170 to form a government. So he needed outside support. And this support was given to him by the New Democratic Party, headed by Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal,
Yeah.
whose party had 25 seats, and
Yeah.
who is an anti India, pro Khalistan activist.
Right.
So recently, in September, Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal withdrew his support to Justin Trudeau, but he did not support the no confidence motion tabled by the Conservative Party against Justin Trudeau. So he helped Justin Trudeau to remain
Yeah.
in power, and
Yeah.
as a result, Justin Trudeau simply dances to his tune. And
Yeah.
that is the unfortunate part of the entire thing. This is why Canada has become, as I said, a hotbed for anti India activities by extremist Sikhs.
Right. And you talked about Jagmeet Singh. He recently pushed for an India Canada committee, and that really couldn't take off because he blamed the conservatives for blocking the move, and he claimed that Canada's democracy was under threat. Now, a person who is rabidly against India and Justin Trudeau is dependent on him one way or the other. So it becomes very clear why all of this is happening. Why so much of a fixation on Hardeep Nijjar when at the same time the Prime Minister says that there was no evidence and India says that no evidence has been shared. So if you connect the dots, it becomes clear why it's happening.
You know, I've also read reports today regarding Jagmeet Singh's proposal for an India Canada committee. But I don't know how sincere the motives are. And by all accounts, the intention is to try and pin India down in terms of the accusation. So, because of his background, and you know, as I said earlier, he is staunchly anti India. Because of his background, there are deep suspicions regarding his credibility and his intentions. And at the moment, it doesn't seem that his proposal regarding the committee is making any headway. So I think that the atmosphere is so filled with suspicion, so much lacking in trust, that there is unfortunately a breakdown in any sort of interaction which would promote a normalization. And most of us sincerely feel, and this was very strongly stated by the outgoing High Commissioner, Mr. Sanjay Verma, that as long as Justin Trudeau is there, it'll be difficult to normalize ties. You know, by and large, Indian analysts are of the view that the ties will remain frozen as long as Justin Trudeau is Prime Minister because of the fact that he has done so much to promote anti India activities. Let me mention that India has been asking for the extradition of these anti India Sikhs. In fact, around 26 extradition requests have been sent to Canada. But none of these have been approved. Canada has turned down all these. And interestingly, one of these persons whom we want extradited is somebody called Sandeep Singh Sandhu. And he was a member of the banned International Sikh Youth Federation. He's
Yeah.
been employed by the Canadian Border Security Agency, and he has been involved in promoting terrorist activities in the Indian state of Punjab. I may also mention that our government has again sought his extradition and pointed out that he was involved in the killing of Balwinder Singh Sandhu in 2020. And Balwinder Singh Sandhu was so highly regarded and had been given the Shaurya Chakra for his acts of bravery. So this is the sort of atmosphere which prevails in Canada. The extremist Sikhs are calling the shots. Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal is making Justin Trudeau dance to his tune, and therefore there is a total absence of trust.
Absolutely. We spoke about Canada and Niger and the situation that is arising there. But also, there is another problem. This is Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. He last year, around this time, he issued a threat on all the passengers flying on Air India. This time, he has repeated that threat. Clearly, I don't understand what can be any other way of terrorizing people. If you issue a threat telling people not from 1st November to 10th November or 14th November, don't fly on Air India flights because we are going to target them. What is November 1 to November 19? That is his new threat. What can be worse than this? And India has been saying that he has been involved in anti-India activities in the US. But US turns around and says that India was involved in a foiled murder plot, one of the officials of the government of India. And since then, the investigations are taking place. Now, India is facing a challenge not just from people within Canada, but also elements like Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, who is in US and has been openly threatening Indians. Not just that, he spoke about a threat on the Air India flight. He also has threatened in the past to target Indian Parliament. He has been openly issuing those threats. And how is all this happening? Is there no way that at least there should be some curbs put on a person because he's openly espousing violence?
Well, first of all, let me state that Gurpatwant Singh Pannu is both a US national and a Canadian national. He has dual nationality. And he carries out his anti India activities in both these countries. In
Yeah.
fact, there are very clear linkages between the extremist Sikhs in Canada and those in the United States. They are very, very closely connected, and their activities have been masterminded by people like Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. Unfortunately, both Canada and the United States have been ignoring it. And in regard to these recent tensions with India, it seems very clear that both these countries, along with the so called other members of the Five Eyes, are acting in tandem. They are sharing inputs with each other and trying to incite one another to try and build a case against India. But as we have pointed out, there's no evidence against India which has been given by Canada. As regards the United States, they have built some kind of a case involving Nikhil Gupta and saying that he had links with Vikesh Yadav, who was a raw officer, and that under the instructions of Vikesh Yadav, Nikhil Gupta tried to get Gurpatwant Singh assassinated through somebody who turned out to be a CIA informer, etc., etc. But the fact of the matter is that both these countries are doing things which are very dangerous for our bilateral relations. And
Right.
I'm afraid that people like uh, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu are being given total leeway to incite violence against India and say whatever they want to, in fact, threaten India, but under the garb of freedom of speech. These countries refuse to take any action against them. As you said, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu recently, 2 days ago, warned passengers not to fly on Air India flights from November 1 to 19. And he said that India has already taken action against
Right. We seem to have some issue with the connection there. We seem to have lost that connection. We'll uh, try and again join with Prabhu Dayal. But yes, now he's
you
back
know
with us.
what is
Yeah,
can you
yeah, I can hear you now, sir.
unfortunately we had a power outage and my phone is now on battery. So let me
Right.
mention that, as I was saying, the United States and Canada have given
Yeah.
total leeway to people like Gurpatwant Singh Pannu to incite violence against India, and all this in the name of freedom of speech. Uh, Pannu on Monday warned passengers not to fly on Air India flights from November 1 to 19. And he asserted that an attack could take place on Air India flights during these dates. And he said that these coincide with the 40th anniversary of the Sikh genocide. Uh, in the past, also, he has issued these threats.
Yes.
He, in December last year, he
Yes.
threatened to attack the Indian Parliament. But all this is ignored by the US government, including his threat to kill the Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann.
Right.
And as I said, the garb is freedom of speech. The US says that he's free to say what he wants, including inciting violence against India. Does freedom of speech mean you can incite violence against another country, which is especially a friendly country? Look what the United States has done. It has annihilated its enemies on foreign soil. But if India tries to take any action against these terrorists, of course, India has not taken any violent action, but India has only asked for their extradition. India has called these countries, that is the United States and Canada, to curb the activities of these extremist Sikhs. Even that the United States refuses to do because it says we have freedom of speech and they are free to say or do what they like here in our country. How
Right.
unfortunate it is.
In fact, sir, we can play a short clip, not of today's threat that he gave to people now of flying on the Air India, but last year, the amount of anger and hatred and inflammatory that threat is. It is in itself a sample to take action against this man. If we can show a bit of that soundbite.
We are asking the Sikh Panth, do not fly Air India. 19 ਨਵੰਬਰ ਤੋਂ ਗਲੋਬਲ ਬਲੌਕੇਡ ਤੇ 에ਅਰ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਏਗੀ। ਸਿੱਖ ਪੰਥ ਵਾਲਿਓ 19 ਨਵੰਬਰ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ 에ਅਰ ਇੰਡੀਆ 'ਚ ਸਫ਼ਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ, ਜਾਨ ਨੂੰ ਖਤਰਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਸਾਡਾ ਇਹ ਸੁਨੇਹਾ ਹੈ ਭਾਰਤ ਨੂੰ, ਇੰਦਰਾ ਗਾਂਧੀ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ 에ਅਰਪੋਰਟ 19 ਨਵੰਬਰ ਨੂੰ ਬੰਦ ਰਹੇਗਾ। ਇਹ 19 ਨਵੰਬਰ ਉਹੀ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਦਣ ਵਰਲਡ ਟੈਰਰ ਕੱਪ ਦਾ ਫਾਈਨਲ ਵੀ ਹੈ। ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੱਸ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਏਗਾ ਕਿ ਭਾਰਤ ਨੇ, ਹਿੰਦੁਸਤਾਨ ਨੇ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੀ ਨਸਲਕੁਸ਼ੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਇਹ 에ਅਰਪੋਰਟ ਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਬੇਅੰਤ ਸਿੰਘ, ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਸਤਵੰਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਖਾਲਿਸਤਾਨ 에ਅਰਪੋਰਟ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਆਜ਼ਾਦ ਕਰਵਾਇਆ ਜਾਏਗਾ। ਆਜ਼ਾਦੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਜੰਗਾਂ ਜਨੂਨ
Right. We didn't play the full bite. It's even more inflammatory after this. But just a sample of what he's saying. If this is not terrorism, this is not inciting violence, this is not waging a war against country, then what is? That is the question that we are asking, sir. And we spoke about it, but I know you'll have to go shortly. I want to shift my focus now to China, what's happening at the LAC. The MEA said that there is an agreement that's been reached between India and China. In fact, S. Shankar also spoke to a private network, and he said that the disengagement has been completed, and now Indian forces can patrol all those areas which were not that was not done earlier after the Galwan clashes. How do you see this development?
Well, it's a very welcome development, and if it actually happens on the ground, it will be a very, very great step in the improvement of India's relations with China. But as I said, we have to see what happens on the ground, and that verification can only be done by the armed forces because they are there at the border. The Chinese may say, and actually they may do it, but at the same time they may not do as they promised to do. This has been quite a history in the sort of pattern of their behavior. So we'll have to see how the armed forces report back to us on what is happening at the border, whether their patrolling rights have been restored to what they were before these tensions arose. So I will look forward to hearing from the armed forces what they say is the on ground situation. But if it has happened and if there is a genuine need which the Chinese have felt for de escalation, then it's very good.
Right. And the minister also said that it is a result of a patient diplomacy that was done over the last few years. There have been 31 you know, officials from government of India and officials from China holding talks on this matter, and there have been 21 core commander level meetings that have taken place, and it's a result of those hectic meetings that happened, that they have reached this conclusion and this agreement that the disengagement process is underway or has completed. But and it could possibly lead to disengagement also in the future. But the point is that, can Chinese be trusted? As you say, that in the past also there have been agreements. It is not the first time that there is an agreement between China and India. In the past it's happened many times. But what happens after some time passes? The Chinese come in, they occupy areas, and there is this concept of salami slicing. They go away, they go back, but they don't go back fully. Some of the area they keep with them, and that is the pattern that has we've seen in the past. Will that repeat, or there is a reason to be more optimistic this time?
Well, you know, when the Chinese are concerned, I tend to be very careful as regards believing their statements. If what they have said is true, then it's very good. But you know, the timing of the entire thing makes me a little suspicious. The Chinese have said it on the eve of the BRICS summit, which is taking place from today in Russia. And it seems that because of the fact that the Chinese have an interest in strengthening BRICS, because they see it as an organization which challenges Western supremacy. Because of this reason, the Chinese may be wanting that the atmosphere at the BRICS summit remains non confrontational, and that everything is smooth in terms of the events that happen in the summit itself. So, as I said, I remain a little suspicious of the reality of what the Chinese are saying. In other words, whether they are saying will actually happen on the ground, will translate into on ground activity. Because, as I said, the timing is very significant, and that creates some suspicion in my mind.
Yes, it's happened just before the BRICS summit, so obviously the two cannot be looked in isolation. There is obviously a definite connection between the two, but a positive development, as is being seen, said by everybody. They're looking at it with caution, though. But will it also impact relations on other counts, like on economic counts, on other exchange between the two countries? Will it help to improve relations further? What happened in Galwan was clearly something that put brakes on the relation on multiple levels. Will that change slowly now, if at all this thing works out on the ground, that Indian forces are able to patrol, there is a disengagement that's taken place, and ultimately this will lead to the escalation? Will that happen?
Well, it's certainly a very positive development because we have been wanting de escalation at the border, at the line of
Yeah,
actual control.
yeah.
Now, I may mention that the Chinese also perhaps feel that there is a need to de escalate because their economic interests are being affected. Uh, the Chinese economy is not doing so well in recent months, and their exports are reportedly slumping. So they feel that they could do with a better relationship with India. And therefore, as I said, there could be some motives behind what the Chinese are doing. They have interests involved. But certainly, a de escalation would be in our interest. And if relations with China can move towards normalization, in the sense that they can be restored to the situation before the Galwan clashes broke out, then certainly it is something that we would be happy with.
Yes, and we'll be looking forward to that. What happens here on? Obviously, an exercise has completed, an agreement has reached, but will it be implemented on the ground? That will be closely followed. But thanks so much, Prabhu Dayalji, for joining us today and for sharing your thoughts on a wide range of issues. We'll of course keep a track on all those stories. But thanks so much for joining us, and thanks to all
Thank you.
the audiences for watching the Mojo story.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.